And so our next presentation is on taking Canvas to the next level. Please help me welcome Maggie, Ricci, and Matt Gunkel.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
All right, so Maggie and I wanted to really just take a minute today to quickly run through and talk about a lot of different services that are sort of on the periphery to Canvas, and really talk about how those services might impact you and or sort of what might really relate to you with regards to Canvas and things that we're generally doing as part of IU Online and how we're working to deliver some new services and really make some changes to how we're delivering education or how we're thinking about education as we move to digital. So the first one of those is Google at IU. So how many of you have logged into Google at IU? Yay, so if you haven't, please go do this. So one of the main changes that we've made is really the launch of Google at IU. So what this means for you is a divide between your personal Google space and then also sort of your Google workspace. And we've done this, so that we could generally support group spaces. So how many of you were project site users? Project site's on course. I know it's in read-only mode, and so it's gone away. But we've created a whole new space that's called group spaces, and this is really to facilitate the replacement of project sites. So if you've historically worked with faculty on project sites or you've worked with departments and they have this need, please go out and go to Google at IU or google.iu and show them group spaces. And have a look at the KB. There are a lot of great documents out there. We've really worked on generally facilitating a whole interface that sort of self-launches and utilizes the entire Google set of tools to create a comparable interface to that found within project sites.
All right, thank you, Matt. So at eLearning Design and Services, we work with people. Our mission is to all the campuses to help put online programs, degrees, and courses out there for everybody. And so as you can imagine, we see an enormous diversity in everything, the programs, the people, the kinds of courses they want to do. But there are common threads that we find. And one of these is around things like branding, giving a common look and feel to a course, to a group of courses like a certificate or a degree program, helping the students navigate a site so that it makes sense from course to course to course. So as we were beginning to create assets like page graphics, banners, icon sets, things like that, and accessible syllabus templates, pages to help with navigation, cool home pages to help your students navigate in a different way. We started dumping those into a Canvas site, mostly for convenience. We're like, we got to put these things somewhere. And then we found out that it was really, really useful to let the other new faculty that we began to work with, we'd say, well, go shopping in here and see what you think is kind of cool and what you might want to riff off of and that you might want to use. So we said, aha, this is really useful. So we put together something called the Canvas Showcase. And we've made this available now in Canvas Commons, and you can go in there and get some of these bits and pieces. So if you're working with faculty who are trying to brand or dress up their site or need some boilerplate language for syllabus, that sort of thing, you can direct them to the Canvas Showcase. It's really, really handy. And this is sort of becoming a hallmark of how we're working at EDS is we may find things that we develop for particular courses and sometimes for very envelope-pushing courses, but we find ways to generalize those and organize them to be used and shared back to the whole university. So Quick Check, and some of you might have seen the Quick Check table that's out in the lobby. If you haven't yet, you might want to take a look. So Quick Check grew out of a couple of projects that we were working on with some definite envelope pushers, Ben Motes and Michael Stucker, who are faculty here at IU Bloomington. They had very strong, I think that's a good word, strong ideas about the experience they wanted their students to have in their online courses. And very key to this was the idea that the activities, the knowledge checks, the assessments that they were doing in those courses, they wanted them to be very intimately embedded with the content. This is not a strong suit for Canvas. In Canvas, if you want to assess a student in any way, you got to do a quiz, and then it goes, there's this page that says, hey, you're taking a quiz. Your blood pressure should go up now, right? And they didn't want to do that. They wanted to make this just be part of the learning experience. So We developed Quick Check to sort of drop this lightweight assessment. It's sort of typical question types that you would expect that can be auto-graded. And these drop in right at the bottom of a content page. So it's just a part of what the students are doing as they're learning. So we took that, and now we've been using that just with sort of select instructors. But we are getting very close to being able to launch that out to the whole university. You should see that in the next few weeks, I think, on next.iu. Next.iu, if you haven't ever been there, you're going to hear a little bit more about it in a few minutes. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is our Teaching Online series. So, you know, we've got assets, we've got some of these cool, innovative tools, but you still have to have good, solid course design. And I was talking to one of my colleagues earlier today, and she was saying, yeah, you're really exposed when you go online. If your course design is kind of you're going to find out really quickly. So we wanted to make really strong resources available for the instructors that were moving into that online space. So we put together our Teaching Online series, and this is some assets. These are really, it's really more like a course. They're modules on things like backward course design, on things like assessment in online courses, effective communication in online courses, those kinds of things to really help people as they're maybe moving into what's a new medium for them. It's interesting what we hear always when we work with instructors that make that move and begin to design and develop things in the online space, and they always say, I'm going to use this stuff in my face-to-face classes too. And that's when you know you've gotten through. So again, true to our sort of new way of, sort of the way that we work, we decided we could share this out too. So this has been available to IU faculty for a while now, and we've had hundreds of faculty go through this. We've facilitated some groups that went through sort of as a cohort to sort of take this as more as a course. But this past summer, we've we've partnered with Instructure, makers of Canvas, right, to actually put the Teaching Online series on their canvas.net portal. And we've released it under a Creative Commons license. And this is now available to everybody, wherever they might be. So that's sort of taking our little philosophy to the next level. I'm going to hand this back to Matt.
All right, we're going to skip this one. We're going to go to this one. So Expand. So Expand is a new service that we're getting ready to launch. And so if you go to expand.iu.edu, you'll find that the portal's already live. We've not yet sent formal communication about this service. We're still working out some of the underlying administrative issues related to launching a service. But ultimately, expand.iu.edu is going to be a place where we can put non-credit course offerings and make them generally available either internally to IU or externally to different audiences that you might have in mind, different markets in general. So when thinking about Expand, basically you get to create a listing. That listing connects to a Canvas course, and then you deliver your Canvas course like you always would. So one of the things that we're working on, we're in the process right now of moving e-training. I assume most of you, if you put your hands up, e-training, yes, you've taken compliance training of some kind, FERPA, HIPAA. Oh man, I'd like to see a lot more hands than that. That's a little nerve-wracking. But anyways, so expand.iu.edu, if you haven't seen this, or if you have interest in making materials available to internal audiences at IU and or to external audiences, this is something that you're going to want to go check out. The last thing we're going to talk about is next.iu. So next.iu is where we try to actually present transparency. So we try to put up what we're working on. We try to actually show the new tools that are coming in learning technologies. We also make pilots available here. So there's a form that you can go here. So actually any of these tools right now are generally available to you, and you can go and click the pilot link and you can sign up. It's actually fantastic. It sends Maggie an email. And she reaches back out to you and gets you into the pilot. So in looking at a couple of these things, I want to touch on just a few things that we're currently working on. So one of them is clickers. So clickers are used in the classroom to do sort of lightweight assessment again. Typically there's a physical device. Right now we're actually in the process of evaluating top hat. We've also been working with Turning Technologies. Turning Technologies is making a transition to the cloud, and so we took the opportunity to fully look at that solution again. And so during the fall semester, we're going to be evaluating those. We've done a little bit here in the spring and a little bit over the summer. And so we are hoping to be able to generally wrap that up. We're also looking at proctoring. So this is really sort of a whole new service space for IU. It's not really something that we've done. It's maybe a little more invasive than you might like. It's very interesting that sort of the very first piece of feedback we got, both from faculty and from students, was sort of how unbecoming of a thing it was to sort of give someone access to a remote camera and then to know that they were watching you. And that not only were they watching you, but you'd agreed to it. Which was a little interesting. But in general, as we move more and more courses online, this is something that we do find we have a compliance need for. And so it's something that our instructors have asked for in some very specific disciplines. And so we are working to find the right vendor and the right partner who can really work with us in this space. The last thing is Zoom. And so this is really related to web collaboration. So how many of you have a Zoom account right now? Yay. That's great. So right now we're in the process of working to finalize our contracts with Zoom, and hopefully that'll be coming out very soon, and we'll be looking to deploy that enterprise-wide. And so that's coming very soon. So look for more information about Zoom. And with that, I'm going to close, and thank you all. This has been great, and we'll see you next time.